So all of you probably are familiar with this website, calendar.edu. Many of you may or may not consume it in your websites. So we have several websites that are, student-oriented, and we pull out some of the categories here, like academic events and some other things that we think students might be interested in. There was, with this calendar, when they did the original theme for Drupal, there was a module developed that would pull in some of the events for you for the homepage. So we've used that, we've kind of hacked it and done something for ourselves, but we were, as this new calendar project that Joe is sponsoring came up, we talked, and another user on campus who was always interested in consuming the calendar, he commented that, "Oh, you're going to change it now. We've just been working on a project for a long time, trying to figure out how we could import it into our website and make it look a little bit different." They weren't necessarily, they were trying to make it look exactly like this, but they didn't have a clean way of importing the iCal feed and re-displaying it like this. And they had spent a lot of time, and we talked about, well, there's an existing API and things like that, and I said, that's just never worked for us really. So we talked and said, well, why don't we just create an extended API that makes it really easy for anyone to drop in a little bit of a script. You can pull in a calendar, and it's packaged with all the HTML and all the CSS that you would need, so you drop it in, and it automatically just shows up like it's here on this website and on your website with just a line or two of code. So we replaced that project that they've been working on for quite some time, and they'd be able to drop in their website. But as we look at doing this for the new calendar and some of the features that Joe's envisioned for making it easier for administrators to subscribe to different feeds within the calendar, we thought this would be a great thing to talk about now, and also include in the new development of the new calendar, so that if we roll out a new calendar, it's ultra easy for people to adopt and include in their websites. So I'll turn over to Michael to talk about the Sim API, and Bo to talk about some of the magic to it.
So the problem that Don brought up was that he's not a Drupal, I think he's quite a WordPress guy. He's drinking the WordPress Kool-Aid.
It's for simpler times.
I'm not opposed to that. I've drunk some WordPress Kool-Aid in the past. But there's a problem on campus if we go, oh, okay, we'll develop a module that for Drupal, so that anyone using the Drupal site can just plug this in, and all of a sudden there it is, the calendar displays all nice and pretty in your site. Well, that's fine for all the Drupal users, but the Joomla users and the Django users and the WordPress users around campus all get upset at us. And so we said, well, why not just do this with some JavaScript? So we have a section of JavaScript that you could just take and put into your site, and at the point where you've placed it in your site, it gets replaced by the calendar, all nicely formatted, so you don't have to know really much about coding at all. You don't have to download the API, you don't have to decode the API, you don't have to work out how to reformat it, you don't have to worry about any CSS. It can be done once and then consumed many times, and then it's CMS agnostic, so it doesn't care whether you are running Drupal or Joomla or whatever you're running. So that was a task that I took back with me and hoisted on my students. And I said to them that there's a few rules. I said, number one, it can't require jQuery or any other JavaScript framework. So it's got to run on flat JavaScript. So we can't expect that someone's running some version of jQuery, which may or may not change in the future, has to run on flat JavaScript. And I said also, someone might want on a particular page, they might want to put 2 copies of the calendar. So they might want in one sidebar, they might want calendar events that are particular to academics, and down a bit further they might be talking about BYU athletics, so they might want calendar events about athletics. So whatever the JavaScript's doing, it's got to be self-contained, so it can't be putting DOM elements on the... Did I lose anyone with DOM elements? It can't be putting things on the page that have names that would compete with other things, so it's got to have unique identifiers in the names that it puts on the page. So that was what I did. Every time they came back to me with I would say, now does it do this? And also I want it to be mobile, so it has to be able to crush. I want it to look like the current output. So it's got to return all the HTML, it's got to return all the CSS, and we've also got to design it so it could actually return other JavaScript that could run. So if we built into the new calendar some, overlay when you hover over it or some other events, there should be able to be some JavaScript that could run if it needed to. So those were my requirements. And Bo and Stephen were tasked with doing that because I'm kind and I love my students. I like them to learn. So I'm going to pass the time over to Bo, and he's going to demonstrate exactly what he did and how it works. And then we're hoping that it's something that was more a concept for a start, but really something that we can build on in the future. And we can have a number of different types of layout, not just the list layout. We could design an API extension that returned a month layout or an entire year layout, those kinds of things. But so this is a simple concept, and I'll let Bo describe what he did.
Sure. Okay, so as we can see here, we have the calendar API, how it currently is. Anyone can reach that just by going to calendar.byu.edu. And we can see that it gives us a little personalization, so we can specify the length of time we want to display events for, and we can filter it by the kind of events. Academics, if we just want to see academic events, we can just click on that, and this will only show us academic events. Or if we only want to see arts and entertainment, same kind of thing. So that's all functionality that's already in the API as it is. And the API website has a page where it talks about different, how you can make requests basically to this API and get the data so then you can do whatever you want with it. So basically, we just wrote a little widget with JavaScript that makes a call to a PHP page that we wrote that in turn makes a call to the API with whatever categories or the time span that you want to pull from the API. And like Michael was saying, it's really simple to just drop into whatever web page. We have the code up here. If you go to onestop.byu.edu/calendar-API, you can find all this code for yourself. You're free to use it, modify it, free of charge. I do accept donations though. We're
For students.
Yeah, exactly.
Having a child.
Yeah. So I accept donations in the form of cash, PayPal, or food.
Bitcoins.
Yeah, I'll accept that too. So I just made a quick little page in HTML that doesn't have anything spectacular in it.
All right, so I need to comment really quick.
Sure.
That page up on One Stop, I don't know when they put that. But I do know that I was in a meeting with Joe and Michael, where Joe asked for something like this. This is when Don and Powell were talking about it and everything. And 2 days later, not 48 hours, right? Somewhere less than 48 hours later, I got a link sent to me with this stuff working. So this happened really quick. Another example of really bright students, but they put it together super fast, and it does everything that Michael described, everything that he wanted it to do.
Sure. and it's easy to use too. You just drop it in to some script tags here in your HTML. And you can do this anywhere. It works whether it's a BYU hosted website or if it's just your own personal website. You want to have the BYU events up there for kicks and giggles. But let's go ahead and drop that in. Refresh the page. What did you say? Does it have to be like a live segment?
No.
I wouldn't.
No, the browser should just work. I would probably put it in the head though.
Okay.
No, only because it replaces itself.
Right.
So it has to kind of sit where you want it to sit.
Oh, it does?
Yeah.
So
So we
it's
did
not like a library, right?
So we did it on purpose because it's a self-contained script. So you can put it in a sidebar, you can put it in a footer, you can put it in. So you don't put it in the header because it doesn't know what, it's not looking for any particular element to replace. It just, wherever you put it, it creates an element and inserts itself.
So in fact, you don't want to put it in the header because you can just stick it, like if you want it between two certain parts of your page, or if you want it in a specific div, drop it into that div, and or any DOM element, and it'll just populate.
Did it just have this not saved? Is that what it did?
No, I misspelled the word script, so we can chalk that up to user error instead of a problem with the API. But as you can see, it's responsive. It responds to any size screen, whether you're using this on a phone or a tablet or a desktop. It should look good no matter what. And the other nice thing is, it will resize automatically based on what DOM element it is. So if I have a div that only takes up 50% of the page, if I stick it in there, it's only going to take up, what I've already laid out for the div. Now, like Michael was saying, he asked us to replicate the look of the current calendar API exactly, so that's what we did. And if you go over to our if you go over to the calendar API page, I put a little link here called How It Works, and that takes us to the PHP script that's actually doing the heavy lifting. So what it's doing is it's making a request to get that JSON data from the API. It's parsing it, breaking it out into the different DOM elements that we want to actually put into the page. And if we go down here to the bottom, we can see the CSS that Steven wrote to make it look like the calendar API. But if, for whatever reason, you don't like the way it looks, you can make any changes you want to the CSS. Just take a look at this code for reference for the classes that we gave the elements inside the PHP. And then you can just make your own style sheet, populate it with any styles you want, and change it in the page. So if you want to have, like Michael was saying, you can put as many calendars as you want into a page. It has a randomly generated ID, so it won't conflict. So if you want one that has all the sporting events, another one that has all the art events, you can run both of those without worry of them getting in each other's way.
Can you demonstrate how to select a different category or times down?
Sure thing. So right at the very top of the JavaScript that we wrote, we have this variable data that stores the different things that we want to specify about what we're getting from the API. So currently we have categories 4, 5, and 9, and if you want to see what those are, we included a link up here to the API help page I was showing before. And down at the bottom it has all the different numbers and what activity they stand for, or what category they stand for. So if we want to see events from college and departments, just put 42 into this list here of categories. Comma delimited, you can put as many as you want. If you don't put any in, it just takes them all. And the number of days, so in this case we specified 7 days, which means our calendar will be generated with the events spanning 7 days.
Today plus 7, right?
Yeah, today and 7 more.
So are you anticipating leaving that calendar.php file on your one-stop site?
Yeah, so right now it's being hosted at, just one stop, calendar-API/ and that's where we have that. So right now that's working, but you can just copy the script and you can run it on your own server. And if you want to make changes to the layout we have as far as how the JSON gets parsed and turned into HTML, you're free to do that free of charge. But again, a burrito or something would be appreciated. Any
Ice cream sandwiches.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the.
Maybe we get a big box of muffins.
They're cheap, I think of peanuts.
The secondary source of income that Michael gives us besides a paycheck is an ice cream sandwich every now and then to reward our hard work.
He's nice.
He is nice.
Yeah.
So did anyone have any questions regarding this? Like, this is kind of, it's there and it runs, but I don't know that it'll be there forever. We're hoping that at some stage we'll determine that we have calendar.byu.edu and we can have this kind of API running at the actual calendar site.
Absolutely. There's no reason to get that up.
I just didn't know you were done.
So does that have this, oh, it doesn't do the sticky header?
It does not.
So no, this is specifically for what it's fairly terse as far as it just takes the calendar and sticks it wherever you want to put it, in whatever element you want to put it in.
But where another department on campus was, whether because of lack of expertise, there's some offices on campus that are doing websites that don't really have a webmaster or anyone. Maybe they might hire a student, but the student may have experience or not experience. So they were working on how can we get this into some other website. So one, it's agnostic, so we don't care, and it's just HTML, so it doesn't care what system or anything like that you're using.
No one needs any PHP in order to go and write something to call the API and parse that out. All of those things we wanted to take away. So this piece of script could just be put into a website on any page and it would be up and running straight away.
The configuration for it has, 2 to 5 lines of documentation for each line.
Yeah,
Configuration, right? So.
yeah, it's not, it shouldn't be rocket science. Other than being able to spell the word script, like that is fairly...
It's a lot to ask today, I mean. Right?
Live audience, yeah.
That's right.
That's not on Pokemon Go, script.
Yeah.
So, and there's no autographs, right? So,
Yeah, so
I'm used to
we put him under pressure.
I use a self-completing editor usually when I write this stuff. So, I don't
Yeah,
have
so
to-
Bo writes the word script and all the rest of this stuff wrote itself.
right.
I just typed in make JavaScript and it just all that stuff.
I mean, it helps have a self-aware editor.
Now, other than any questions, that's kind of all we had. We didn't want to keep you here for or go on about it. But are we talking more about the calendar at the moment in this session? Are we going to drag Joe down here or Sherwin?
You can, we can have some more discussion about calendar. I love the spotlight, especially with off.
So thank you both.
No.
Okay, I'm like,
Okay.
well, you don't have to stay here, but I was just gonna say if you're not leaving the conference.
Right, that hand is coming.
Bo has to go on a scout camp later, so.
Well, make sure, you snag the snacks and stuff. 2:30, in case anybody's forgotten, food is in 2:30, right? So the calendar, the hope is, Joe's heading up this group to kind of discuss ways in which the calendar can be most useful to campus, things that you would like to see, things that haven't been useful to you. So there is a group actually already organized, but certainly room for more people if they're interested in contributing towards the calendar discussion. Is this, how long are we supposed to, is it until 3 or is it until 3:30? 3:30, so we've got 35 minutes.
Well, it doesn't take them long to fix things or present things.
Exactly, right? I mean, there's no reason to take more time than necessary.
We are sweet.
Yes, yes. But this, so, let's see, one, I think there's only one person in the room right now that's not here at BYU working or whatever, right? I think you're the only one that's not. So, do you guys do calendars? Much? Yeah. So you do whatever's asked of you. There you go, right? So if you were to, yeah, that's fine. If you were to, do you do just Drupal or do you do whatever?
Probably primarily in Drupal. A lot of what I was doing before was any sort of
Okay.
create a packet of calendars. The cool thing about this is that your whole calendar system is
Right.
right? Like it's, everybody has like just their own thing. So like this would have been impossible. Because there was no central authority.
And that's part of the problem we're actually fighting right now. It looks like we're centralized and we have a centralized calendar, but every department has their own. Athletics has their own, arts has their own. So we're hoping in doing this that we can get more to that centralized, right? My suggestion had originally been to say, well, we will, we won't just give you a login to our system. If you want to maintain your own calendar and you don't want to double enter, then give us an iCal feed and we'll pull them in, right? Which is still fine. It just so happens that there's not a whole lot of people that want to maintain their own calendar system. They've just been doing it because that was the mandate, right? So when we said to them, well, your choice is you can give us an iCal feed, we'll consume yours if you really want, or you know, we can give you a login, you can do that. That's always been possible. You can do that. Oh, well, we didn't know we could. So we could just log in and put our events in there and then we'll pull them out ourselves for our own site. And if we do like this widget, right, they can have their own on their site super easy. Because there's going to be a calendar, there's going to be a category anyway, an ID, right? It'll be dead simple for them to never have a calendar system, not worry about it. I know about, oh gosh, a third to half of the calendars on campus are Google calendars, right? They've just embedded on the page, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with Google Calendar.
Does Google allow you to export and
It does.
So
It
they
does.
give you credentials or they permit a certain user to.
So if you mark the calendar as public, then anyone can pull it out. If you mark it as private, then you have to share it with people. What's that?
It's a private calendar, you can't embed it, put it on your
You
website.
still can, because the URL has the tokens in it that you need in order to access the private one. So it's not technically private, it's more like obscured.
You can see it if you have the URL.
If you have the URL, you can see it. And it will tell you when you go in to pull out the Google Calendar, don't share this URL with anybody, right? Put it in, you can put it in your Outlook calendar, you can put it in whatever. I always put them in Thunderbird, because I like the Lightning calendar with that. But there's one URL that has both the user token and the password token in the URL. And if you hand that to somebody, they can not only read your stuff, they can edit it. So it's a good and a bad, right? They wanted to allow people to have flexibility to use whatever editor they wanted to do it. But yeah, there's three to choose from. And the one really depends on whether it's public or not. But 3 URLs you can just pick from.
I was trying to load the design that Eleni sent over, but the page isn't coming up. Anyway, Eleni Rasmussen in Publications and Graphics came up with a really awesome looking mobile design for the calendar, and she's still working on the desktop version. So if this page ever loads, I'll show you the mobile design. One of the other updates on the project is that we've had feedback from people who are consuming the calendar on their site that they want the current RSS feed structure to stay intact, even while we're changing the UI categories. One idea we threw out, I don't know, Joanne, if you ever found out that one question we had is, do departments on campus have an official business unit ID or something, and we might switch to a system like that where the RSS feed is based, if it's coming from this department, then it's from their official department ID, so that you can overlay the count. Did you ever get
Yeah,
that?
I haven't found that information yet.
Michael's nodding his head like maybe it exists.
Oh, yeah.
It's
I imagine it does, I just don't know.
College departments, out academic units have assigned numbers for curriculum and other things, but you have a lot of other units that aren't necessarily
Wouldn't be.
tracked the same way.
So we're looking at,
But when we talked to the physical math people, we basically said, you know, if we have to make the change, we'll help you through the transition.
yeah,
I don't think there are that many entities that we couldn't do that.
okay.
And I think that the general feel is that the API is not bad, but it's not robust. Right? We would like more flexibility in what we can get out of it, what we can respond with, and all those kind of things. So I think the general feeling is, if you can make my life better, go ahead, change the API. Right? With this widget that they've got, if people don't like it, right? You know, or for example, the work is coming in now.
And suddenly the page became responsive.
The point is, we wrote it in a couple of days.
Right.
So we could write half a dozen, if there was a requirement, we could write a few different versions that gave you a specifically targeted mobile version, a specific, so.
Yeah. So all those things are options, right? But part of that too is that we'd like to deliver an option that's kind of the supported, this is right,
Yeah.
and then say, here's where you change it if you want it different. And if we can do it in the configuration where they just change a few parameters, that's golden right there, right? They wouldn't.
It's easier to adopt that than to update whatever.
So
calendar they may have,
if
you know.
we were to change the calendar, if we were to swap out the calendar today, and I hadn't had time to rewrite the calendar module for Drupal so that it could be used on the home page, and the home page consumes it, so it's got to be there, I'd drop you guys in, right? Pick the categories and drop yours in, and this many, and we're good, we'll go. Right, so just having that right now means that we don't have to, I already don't have to rewrite the calendar module for Drupal 7 if I want to.
Yeah.
One of the things we tested with the help of Joanne in the previous session, she talked about user testing. We tested these categories, both the categories that are on the existing calendar and then this new set that's a little bit shorter and written for the end user and not necessarily written for departments. And one of the things that stood out is that every single student interviewed said we like these new categories more than the old ones. So there was complete consensus on that, even though there was some feedback on, they said with education as a category, they said that's somewhat vague on what's going to be there. But basically it's the academic calendar plus things that are workshops or other things that fit with academic. Academic is another option as a title, academic events. I love how this works. You know, you can scroll through it. It'll bring up each day as it comes. Or if you wanted, you can thumb over, click the day that's on this left side, and it'll jump to that day. So that's going to be the main view. We've got, you know, this is what the month
So-
would look like.
At the moment on that day, those days continue to scroll up in a pod. Do you expect that will kind of stay static on the side? Like I know that this is a mock-up. So do you expect that will stay static on the side rather than
running
all
with it.
element from 9 to 10?
Yeah, fixed.
Yeah, we'd probably stick it as a
Prefer to be
sidewalk,
fixed.
Yeah.
a floating sidewalk. I mean, it would be above the content.
Yeah, it just looked a little confusing as you were
Why is it-
scrolling.
why is it running?
Okay, yeah.
The day shouldn't change. This is the an example of the submit an event interface here, where you can plug in the details, add your image. Don't anticipate lots of people will be adding events on the phone, but it would be nice to have that option. more and more, our world is shifting towards get everything done on the phone. So we're going to offer that. We don't have calendar tags right now on our current site, so it would be nice to have tags so that any department can say, this is the tag convention we're going to use if we wanted to promote certain tags for our events. So if they felt like dance is one that they need, even though the category is arts and entertainment, they may feel like they need every type of arts and entertainment to have a specific tag that they can link to and use.
Would you have some kind of crop resize image thing built into this? Is that? If I'm on the phone, the hardest part is I've got an image. It's not necessarily going to be 300 by 2, and I don't have a lot of
Uploading software on the
And
phone.
if you do, it's not gonna give you pixel by pixel, it's not gonna crop to a ratio.
Yeah, all I'm saying is if it showed you a box over your image, you could then go, yeah, this is the ratio I want.
We were just gonna ask everybody to put Photoshop on their phone.
I did get the Photoshop app and it doesn't do much. The answer is we'd love to have it. We're not going to do it right now because there's a lot of things that the feature list was big, and then we looked at time and price. We cut down. So for now, if you don't have the image ready and sized, you have to do it on desktop.
It seems to be kind of an edge case anyway, right? We're not gonna have a whole lot of people uploading photos on their phone. I mean, they could take photos.
Anything else you want to see?
But it's not exactly.
You could on the site create a crop.
This would look
Oh
like-
yeah,
This is what.
the site could, whatever they upload, could force it into a 3 by 2.
What the event node would look like itself. I love how
There's an IMC crop module, so you could actually use IMC to do it and then crop accordingly. There's, again, it's Drupal, right?
Yeah.
Well, we're implementing the calendar in Drupal, and there's 1,000 ways to skin that cat.
So there's a preview. They say mobile first. We literally did. We're doing mobile first because we don't even have the desktop design yet. Anything more?
Yeah, you got a question up there?
I'm sorry, it came out a little late. When you said that the categories are designed more for the users as opposed to departments, for those of us that when you do have a desktop version, will we still be able to do it similarly like the module now, where we will have a department category, or are we going to have to do it all through tags, or?
So are you talking about when you're adding stuff or consuming it to your site?
Well, like currently in the calendar module we use, I have a number associated with,
So you're
with
pulling
my
something
department.
from the feed?
Right, so I'm pulling it from
Yeah,
the
so we'll
feed.
still preserve that function,
Okay.
but the goal is here, instead of having the back-end feeds married to the front-end categories, we're saying the front-end categories need to be written just for the users of
And
the
then
site.
those things will roll up into certain categories on the front, right? That's how that will.
Yeah,
But you'll still be able to pull your department stuff out.
yeah. Just on calendar.byu.edu, we won't have that full set of categories visible to people who are just coming to the site. But it'll be there on the back end to consume, and if we make any shift to how the feeds work, then we'll walk everybody through the adjustments.
And do you think that every category is going to need to map to one of these 6?
Yeah.
Or do you think, like if
Well,
I'm
if you're saying,
I'm
I don't-
FizMat and I
Yeah.
have some interdepartmental calendar thing that I want to just save in the university calendar and I want to be able to export it. But
yeah,
it's not really student-facing stuff, and I don't necessarily need it to
yeah,
map to.
there is that use case where I want it on my site, but I don't need this on calendar.byu.edu. So we need to protect that use case.
And that's fine. That's easy, right? That's a flag.
Yeah, that you could choose when you uploaded your stuff, you could put it under your department, but you could choose then if you wanted to fall into one of these public-facing categories.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and
I've heard that request
maybe
from
even
others.
so much that we'd let them choose that public facing category. the parent, right? As opposed to, in my mind, I was kind of foreseeing it as, it would be parent-children kind of thing, so certain children would always float up, but maybe that's not necessary.
When you are
Maybe let
adding
them
an
change it if
event,
it makes sense.
I'm not sure if it's here now,
You know, maybe to some people, calculus is more of a sport, so. Yeah.
Will all the public-facing ones that come through those main categories still be reviewed in your office, Joe? Before they
If
get
it's on, yeah, if it's on calendar.byu.edu, it'll depend on your role. If Emily has said this is somebody at a college that I trust to vet everything from that college, like, that's what Lynn's last, Lynn Patton does for physical mathematical sciences. Emily doesn't want to review everything that Lynn has already vetted. And so Lynn has an editor role underneath, for everything that comes underneath her umbrella. And so Lynn has the ability to get it pushed and published on the site. But if somebody is a contributor or a guest contributor that doesn't have an editor that they naturally feed in through, then it will need to be reviewed through our department, and then we push the button and say, yeah, to the site. So if you have enough volume and you have somebody in your college that wants to act as the editor that will vouch for all the events, then work with us and we'll make that editor, we'll get them permissions.
And preferably, you want that to be the case, right? Because that would mean if you have a rockin' calculus party going on at 7 and it gets changed to 8 in a different building, it'd be better if you could be the one that changed that and just float it out, as opposed to knowing that at 6:30 there's nobody in Joe's office to approve that, right?
Yeah. One of the things that's missing here is there will be a checkbox that
We're just
says,
gonna, yeah, Joe's number will be on every page as well.
there will be a checkbox that says we want this to appear on calendar.byu.edu and the BYU homepage, because there's a calendar widget there. And so that's something that's missing from this design, but it will be there on the finished product.
Yeah.
And that's probably the extent of what we can show now.
Yeah, I think that's right. Any additional questions, comments? Yeah,
When are you guys expecting to roll this out?
the calendar? Still this year, I mean,
Yeah. How's it going so far?
well, we've had the last couple of days have been a little hectic, but,
I don't know why.
I think our time frame, we were hoping to do it before school starts up again. I don't know if that's gonna happen, so we'll push for that, but.
And maybe you already said this, but along those lines, when you do roll it out, are you the module for Drupal, will it be Drupal 8 or will it be 7?
So based on I guess you probably weren't here for the first part where they showed the widget, were you?
Sorry.
Is that still, that's okay, no, that's okay, so there is a widget that was created, that if you include this script on anywhere on your page, if it's in Drupal, you just stick it somewhere in one of in a div, right? This will actually call out to this calendar.php file on onestop.byu.edu calendar API, and we'll grab this stuff and format it just like it is on the calendar.byu.edu with those categories and that number of days. So eventually we will, originally the plan was that the calendar has to be on the home page, so when we go live with the new calendar, we'll have to go live with the new calendar module, right? That's not going to be the case now because of this little snippet. So we'll probably have some training and examples of where to stick this kind of thing, or maybe we'll just steal Michael's custom block module and throw in one of those. But anyway, the thought is that we would just go with something like this to begin with, and then eventually we would migrate those into Drupal 7 and 8 modules, and probably a WordPress plugin, and work with the Django guys to get them to have a widget as well, right? Try and provide as much coverage as we could. But in any case, this kind of thing should always be available. And eventually we'll move off of the one-stop site and onto the calendar site, so that PHP file will also come out of there. Just so you, because you didn't catch this part either, this is the, this is his example. So there's the hello world, right? It didn't actually have anything on it. He put the script in that function, the closing script tag on there. And then there's that's what it generated. Oh, not that one. No, that one. Yeah.
Scroll right up to the top.
Oh, where's the,
I need to close
did you close the local
But
list?
it's on, it's just on the desktop.
Yeah, so that's what it generates, right? So if I go in here and change this from 7 days to 1, and save it, and refresh, I guess it's actually, it's today plus that number.
Yeah.
So if I wanted to not show, if I only want to show today, I guess I do that.
We will see.
Yep. Although that's not all of them, is it? Didn't we lose some categories for some events? Yeah, something's a little funky. Apparently it doesn't like the 0, although I'm not so certain that anybody else is going to look at 0, right? But so if I said 6 because I wanted a week, then now I go here, refresh, there's all my stuff, and if I, 45 was one of the 45 one of the categories?
Yeah.
So if we say 45 and 9, instead of 4, 5, and 9, again I refresh this. Apparently 9's got a lot of stuff. And let's go ahead and get rid of all but, let's do just 45. Nothing. Okay, that's, so we can do 4. Anyway, so you can see, it's really, really simple. Yeah?
Based on the order that you put the categories, is it prioritize?
I don't think the API actually cares. I think it goes numerically.
I was just wondering, let's say you're really worried about making certain all the deadlines show up, but you also have some other categories that you want to have on consistently. Then they flood, they flood the calendar with these events, and all of a sudden your deadlines start dropping out of the bottom because of
Right. No, absolutely true.
And if you had a category which was just deadlines, you might want to create 2 versions of the calendar. So over in a sidebar, you have you run the widget and just have the deadlines, and then in another area on your page, you have all the other events that may flood out the deadlines. So you can copy and paste this text onto your page 3 different times and have different categories in each one.
So they, if you look here, in doing this, they're creating a random ID for each one of these for a unique ID. So you can put this as many times as you want on the page. That's what Michael's talking about, right? Is you can have that deadlines in its own section, always stays there, never is anything but deadlines. You could do your department in the main content area if you wanted. There's all kinds of CSS and things. Was that in the calendar.php file? Is that what that was? So if you go look at onestop.byu.edu/calendar-API,
How it works shows you the PHP.
here's where that is. And looking to see if there's anything. All these are pretty generic, and they're all classes, it looks like, too. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, so you could, probably you don't want to use the ID since it's random. You'll never get it again. You could easily overwrite any of the CSS in your CSS, right? Make it look different. Whatever needed to happen so that you could reuse that usefully on the page. Anything else? All right, well, it's 3:20, so you got 10 minutes to get a drink of water, go grab snacks out at 2:30, and the other sessions, let's actually do that really quick too so we can